Hi, this is Justin and welcome to Just Shaves. For this episode, I wanted to just walk everyone through the process that I go through for building up a lather before my shaves. One of my previous videos I mentioned I'd prefer using a bowl and a brush to build up my lather. Again, there's other options out there, but if you're gonna take the time to do this process, it's well worth it in my eyes. Just in terms of prepping your skin, prepping your hair, and making sure you're getting the best possible shave results you can. In terms of the bowl that I use, this one was made by Timeless. Cost me about $15. Tons of other options out there. Even if you're tight on funds, you might be able to just utilize a bowl or a mug from your kitchen that you're not really using anymore. But if you are going to spend some more dollars into it, there's an argument that it might be well worth it. My bowl sits on my counter in my bathroom constantly, so it's always there. I always see it, so you might want to invest in something a little bit more pretty. That's kind of up to you though. In terms of the brushes, starting off, I'd probably recommend starting off with a synthetic hair brush. The one I have is made by Razor Rock. This one cost me about 20 bucks or so. You can get decent ones for half that cost. This one, I just really like the handle, the way it feels in my hand. So this is one of my favorite go-tos. Also with synthetic brushes, when you first open them out of the box, there isn't a weird break-in period where you're trying to get it ready to be used. It's just ready once you take it out. They also dry quicker than other brushes do, so that's another factor. But synthetic brushes, consistent, reliable, and you can get some really affordable ones as well. So starting off, I'd probably recommend starting off with a synthetic brush. It doesn't have to be anything crazy fancy, but as long as you're getting something of decent quality, you can not spend a whole lot of dollars, but still get something that works very well for you. I do have a couple of other brushes that I've recently picked up just as I'm getting into this hobby and wanted to try out. This one's made by Omega. This is a boar brush. Cost me about $10. With boar hair brushes, they're really stiff. When you're building up the lather, in my opinion, from the different types of brushes, you're going to probably get relatively the same lather built up. The difference is just going to be how it feels on your skin. This one's going to be a little bit stiffer, a little bit on the scratchier side, not abrasive in any means, but it's just going to be stiffer than the synthetic brush that I'm typically used to. But this is another good option as well. This one right here, good quality boar brush, cost me about $10. So something to play around with if you're interested. Moving on, I do have two other brushes that I picked up also relatively recently. Both of these are made by Parker. This one's going to be the black hair badger brush, in between $20 to $25 here. And this one's going to be, it's all badger hair. This one here is going to be the silver tip one. This one costs $60. So both are badger, but this one's made out of more prime select hairs from the badger. About a 3 times price difference. Really the difference in feel comes from the silver tip hairs being just a little bit softer and a lot more absorbent as well. So this holds onto water really well, feels really soft on your skin. This one holds onto water decently well. A little bit more on the scratchy side, but both, they both do their job. So regardless of what type of brush you get, you're going to be able to work up a lather and apply it onto your skin. It really just comes down to your personal preference. With that, my personal preference is sticking to the synthetic brush. I do use the boar and the 2 badger brushes I have just, for the sake of changing up the pace a little bit. But if I had to pick one, I'd probably just go with my synthetic brush. Find something that has a good handle that you're comfortable with, because you're going to be working the lather a little bit. That's really the main thing that I would focus on there. In terms of shave soaps and shave creams that I would recommend, starting off, I'd probably go with Praso. This is one of the first ones that I started with. I've tried a few different artisan soaps, and if you have the interest and the time and the money to invest in a few different smaller brands that make really good stuff, by all means go do it. And also you'd be supporting the shave community. So by all means continue to go do that. This is a little bit more on the mainstream side, but this container right here costs $10. I have 2 of them, one green, one red, exact same soap, but main difference is just going to come down to the scent. This one's going to be sandalwood, and then this one's going to be eucalyptus. This particular one, I had to go back and check Amazon when I bought it, but I bought this in February of 2023, and I've only halfway gone through it. So these things last a ton as well. So you can buy one of these for $10 and end up having shaves for well over a year if you wanted to. Another brand I'd recommend, Cella. These are very similar to Parasso just in terms of how they lather and how they feel on your skin. Difference mainly is just going to be in the scent. Cella's red one is going to be almond scented, and then their green one, aloe vera scented. So I rotate between these two and my two Parasso pretty routinely. They feel the same. The main difference is just which scent am I getting on that given day. Another one that's really popular that I'd recommend trying out is Talbec. This one comes in a little tin, or a little glass tin. It has a puck inside. Very similar with the other ones that I just recommended in terms of consistency. Very easy to build up the lather. Don't dislike the scent, but it kind of reminds me of like the bar soap when you go into a hotel for the first time. But it makes a fantastic lather. And also, when you're going through this, it's going to end up lasting you a really long time. So it is very cost effective as well. The last one I'd recommend, just in case you're short on time and don't really have the time or the ability to actually build up a lather with the bowl and the brush, Parasso comes in a foam can as well. And I was trying this out, just trying to figure out what my shave routine is going to be when I'm traveling. This works really well. The canister is pretty darn big, unfortunately, but the lather is really on par with what I'm getting when I'm mixing it myself. The only difference is I'm not able to control how much water is in the bowl, is in the lather rather, when I'm using it. But nevertheless, very functional, especially when you're short on time or if you're traveling. So this is another option as well. With that, I wanted to take a few minutes and actually whip up a lather on camera, so I'm going to do that now. So starting off, I just like to get my bowl, have some water in here. I let my brush just sit in it for a little bit. With synthetic brushes, it doesn't need to sit a ton. I just want to make sure it's properly soaked through. Another thing that's worth mentioning is, if you prefer, you can use warm water or cold water. I personally just use cold water every time, just for the sake of not wasting a ton of water while I'm doing this. So cold water works just fine for me, but I'll just take the bowl, have some water in it for just a minute or two. I'll take that, dump that water out real quick. Now I have an empty bowl, and my brush now just has just a little bit of water on it. And then open up one of these pucks, and then I just kind of go through the process of swirling my brush into the actual soap puck for a little bit. And I'll just do a few swirls, and I do this over my bowl, so like anything that's dripping off, I catch it in my bowl. And this is kind of what it looks like. So right now, I'm really just picking up a lot of that soap onto my brush. And I think that's probably good right there. So that's what the puck looks like. This is what my brush now looks like. Now my bowl doesn't have a ton of water in it, but it has the water that was just dripping out of my brush. So now I'm just gonna swirl it around a few times. And this is actually just a pretty relaxing process for me. I don't really feel any need to rush through it any more than I do. The main thing I'm worrying about is just kind of going through the motions and just making sure I get the right consistency that I want on this given day. You usually want to start with less water because you can always add more water as you're going. If you start off with way too much water, it's really difficult to add enough of the soap back into it. But same thing applies if you're using a shaving cream as well. I forgot to mention that. So creams and soaps typically come in the same format. Some creams come in like a tube that you just squeeze directly onto your brush instead of scooping it out. Main difference between a cream and a soap is just going to be the consistency. Soaps sometimes need just a little bit more water to be as smooth and creamy as the creams are at the end of the day. But going back and forth. Like I've used Parasso, the soap and the cream back to back, and both of them work just as well for me personally. So with that, just in a few short minutes that I was chatting, this is the lather I have built up. I could keep whipping it up a little bit. This kind of feels like there's enough water in here for me, and you'll just play around with it and experiment and figure out what works for you. So depending on the razor you're using, or what your personal preference is, you can always add more or less water to it. Like there's no perfectly right formula to it, but typically you want to start with less water because you can always add that piece back. So with that, those are some of my tips and tricks for building up a lather pretty quickly. So 10 minutes start to finish, and that's with me rambling on quite a bit as well. So not a whole lot of time wasted with this process, but overall it is worthwhile in my opinion. So with that, I'll sign off for this one, and I'll start another video just now, and probably just do a very quick head shave, although I did shave it just yesterday. So with that, thank you guys, and check out the next video I have coming up.